For centuries, kings, queens, and empires ruled the world. But behind the thrones, in the shadows, there were other rulers. Men with no crowns, no armies, and no kingdoms. They were bankers. Families who controlled money so vast that even monarchs bowed before them. They financed wars, built empires, and shaped the destiny of nations. But as powerful as they became, history also shows how quickly even the mightiest can fall. This is the story of the rise and fall of history's most powerful bankers. It all begins in medieval Europe. In the 14th century, the Medici family of Florence rose from humble merchants to the most influential bankers of their time. They funded popes, kings, and artists. Without the Medici, the Renaissance itself may never have flourished. Michelangelo, Leonardo, Da Vinci, and Botticelli all worked under their patronage. But the Medici weren't just art lovers. They were financial innovators. They created bills of exchange, an early form of the modern credit system. With this, merchants could travel across Europe without carrying gold, reducing theft and risk. For nearly 2 centuries, the Medici controlled wealth and power in Europe. Yet, their downfall was inevitable. Overextension, political enemies, and reckless heirs weakened the dynasty. And by the 18th century, their banking empire was gone. But where one dynasty fell, another was rising. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Rothschild family became the most powerful bankers in the world. Originating in Frankfurt, Meyer Amschel Rothschild built an extraordinary system. He had 5 sons, and he sent each one to a different financial capital of Europe: London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt. This created a financial web that stretched across the continent. At a time when communication was slow and unreliable, the Rothschilds used a private courier system that made them faster and better informed than kings and generals. During the Napoleonic Wars, they financed governments, supplied armies, and profited massively. After the Battle of Waterloo, the Rothschilds knew the outcome hours before anyone else, allowing them to dominate the markets. Their influence grew so large that by the mid-1800s, they were called the Bankers of Kings. But the Rothschilds' immense power also created suspicion and conspiracy. They were accused of manipulating wars, controlling governments, and secretly ruling the world. In reality, while their wealth was legendary, no family could control everything. As the 20th century arrived, new players like J.P. Morgan in America began to rival them. The Rothschild Empire still exists today, but its dominance has faded. Their rise was extraordinary, but their decline reminds us that even dynasties of gold are not immortal. Then came the Americans. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, banking titans like J.P. Morgan, Andrew Mellon, and the Rockefellers rose to power. J.P. Morgan became so powerful that during the Panic of 1907, when the U.S. financial system was on the verge of collapse, it wasn't the government that saved the markets. It was Morgan himself. He gathered America's leading bankers in his library, locked the doors, and forced them to agree on a rescue plan. Newspapers called him the uncrowned king of America. His influence was so great that it eventually led to the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1930 to prevent one man from ever holding such power again. The 20th century introduced a new era of banking power. No longer families, but institutions. Citibank, Goldman Sachs, and later giants like J.P. Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank dominated the global stage. These institutions controlled trillions, influenced governments, and became too big to fail. But with great power came great mistakes. In 2008, the financial crisis exposed the greed and recklessness of modern banking. Lehman Brothers, a 150-year-old bank, collapsed overnight. Trillions were lost. Millions lost their homes and jobs, and governments had to step in with massive bailouts. The fall of Lehman Brothers echoed the downfall of the Medici centuries earlier. Even the most powerful banks can crumble when arrogance, overconfidence, and risk take over. And so, history teaches us a pattern. The Medici rose and fell. The Rothschilds rose and faded. JP Morgan rose and gave way to the Federal Reserve. Lehman Brothers collapsed under its own weight. Banking dynasties, like empires, are never permanent. Power shifts, wealth evaporates, and influence passes from one hand to another. Yet one truth remains constant. Money is power, and those who control it will always shape the world. Even today, as we enter the digital age, a new class of bankers is emerging. Not families, not traditional banks, but tech giants, crypto pioneers, and digital finance companies. Just as the Medici invented credit and the Rothschilds built financial networks, today's innovators are building blockchains and digital currencies. The question is not whether bankers will rise again. They always do. The question is, who will hold that power tomorrow?